Oh, hello everybody, and welcome to this. This is our second session in this. Well, I think it's going to be a brief course on Dohas, spiritual songs of awakening in the Kagyu tradition. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, I suppose, to wherever you are. And let's start in the very, very, very best way by reminding ourselves of our bodhicitta. Just now, before we started, Susan was saying how nice it was to see the peace monks walking, very basic but so wonderful and powerful. And so the basics are our foundation. We can never get enough of them, and you've never done them. There's always so much more there. It's a mine of treasure, refuge, bodhicitta. Akon Rinpoche often used to say, you'll only really understand refuge when you're Buddha. And it's so true. And so let's do our starting prayers, and with a heart full of love for all of our fellow beings and for all that's meaningful and that's expressed by these prayers. It's kind of our, life statement. Why I am who I am, why I do what I do. This is it. We take refuge in the Buddha, in the Dharma, and in the community of most noble minds. From this moment on until we reach the very heart of enlightenment. Through the practice of generosity and all six transcendent virtues, the paramita, may we reach total awakening, every enlightened quality, to be able to truly help sentient beings so lost in samsara. May each and every one of those endless beings be well. May they live long and be healthy. May they be well provided for and have good friends. May they find respect and live in places of peace, places of plenty. And most of all, may they practice Dharma. May they each create the causes for those good circumstances to be their wealth in future lives. May they be free from suffering and from creating the causes of future suffering. May they discover the natural, the sacred well-being that's totally beyond suffering, and attain the great equanimity that's free of closeness or distance from anyone. Dayata Shame Shamawati Shamita Shatru Om Kure Mara Jite Karota Keyorite Jowati Oloyane Bishuda Nemale Malapanaye Kukure Kaka Grase Grasana Omuki Paramuki Amki Shame Dawane Sawa Graha Bandanane Negre Hitva Sawa Parabadina Vimukta Marapasha Savidva Buddha Mudra Annud Gatita Sava Mare Butsarita Parishude Biga Shantu Sava Mara Kama. Glorious Guru, source of all blessing, ever present above our heads on lotus and moon seat, through your immense kindness, ever sustain us, that the accomplishments of body, speech, and mind flow from you, and we are one. In the previous session on the Dohas, we looked at the Doha by the 16th Jawakamapa, a very recent transmission and a reflection from a Kagyu master about our present world, our present times. Today we go back 1,000 years, and we're going to be exploring a Doha from the wonderful great master Maitripa. But before that, just a few words about these Dohas, and in particular about these great Mahasiddhas, these great yogis, who have left us with this very special poetic inheritance. I'm not sure there's a musical inheritance that anybody knows the actual tunes they sung these to. It's not like a musical tradition, and there isn't a particular style, whether it was just singing accompanied or whatever. We don't have that. So basically this is a poetic tradition, but we know that these songs of instructions were sung. What I don't really want to get into and spend time on, but that's in my mind and I want to just flick through, is something that became a popular idea through Trungpa Rinpoche, and it's too popular and we don't need it, basically. So it's the idea of the crazy yogi. And it's misunderstood. And the word crazy isn't right. And the main thing that's misunderstood is it's understood as a path, not a result, which it is not. Our great teacher, Trungpa Rinpoche, made this very, very clear. When somebody becomes really enlightened, truly, stably, properly enlightened, a Mahasiddha, a Mahamudra Guru, then their behavior doesn't always make sense to everybody. It's maybe unconventional is the word. Now, that makes a lot of sense. We go to a Christian example that flashes across my mind. Jesus wrecking the moneylender's tables outside the temple. What happened? Did he have a fit of anger? Did he get fed up, or did they give him a bad exchange rate, or something like that? Somebody whose normal message is peace, whose presence is peace, all of a sudden manifests anger. But of course, there was a message to it. But if you had back then, 2,000 years ago, whatever they had in the way of trolls, they would have said, oh, Jesus has lost it. He couldn't keep his cool when he was dealing with those moneylenders. Say, well, that's him finished. And headlines in the local papers, which they didn't have, but if they had them, Jesus loses cool, is this the end of him, and so on. It's unconventional, but very, very appropriate behavior, only manifested by already enlightened beings. It has never been and never will be a path whereby you act crazy in order to get enlightened. You act unconventionally. So that has been much, much misunderstood. And it's a phrase that's around, crazy yogis. Didn't ought to be around. Yogi is somebody whose mind is, yog means joined, fused. It's in harmony with, it's joined with the primordial state, which is Buddha. Buddha is not crazy. So anyway, so then Now, part of the reason I'm saying this is when we go back, we're back in India, we're back with the Sangha. They're monks, they're monastics, they've taken their basic vows, and in the basic vows, no singing, no dancing, right? So why are these most saintly Buddhist beings singing? No? This is very sort of, good questions. And it is just a spontaneous outpouring. They're beyond the need of that vow of restraint that monks practice in order to get rid of the habit of the mind wandering off, blah, 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 songs. But then also, it's something that exists within the monastic tradition, chanting. We look at the monks walking across part of the USA just now, they are chanting. There is music to the enlightened words of the Buddha's teaching. So chanting is very much part of it. And I must say one of the most hair-raising experiences of my own life was I was very fortunate in 1970 to do some Vipassana sessions with this very great master, Goenka-ji. And he would be sitting, we'd be doing long sessions of meditation like you do in the 10-day Vipassana retreats. And then sometimes he would just let out spiritual chant. It was wonderful. And totally, as I set your hair on end. He did that once or twice. So I did 2 retreats with him. He's not a Tibetan, he's a Burmese master. And there I got the flavor of this. When the realization's there, it just comes out. This beautiful song. And then also we have in the Buddhist tradition this way, and I mentioned it in the first session, of summarizing lengthy teachings into condensed verses that people learn by heart. Then those verses bring to life very powerfully all the teachings which are associated with them. And indeed, let's not get lost in it in this particular session, but when we study the Bodhisattva path that we're on, in some texts they describe 80 qualities we need to develop, and one of them is the power of dharani. And this is a very special Bodhisattva power, whereby if you say one word or one short mantra, it opens up the memory to volumes of teaching. And the other way round, when you express the mantra, it has all the power of those volumes of teaching in its words. So this is something, as we go along our path, this life, next life, whenever it is, but you'll be developing. It's amazingly special. And some of us already have, let's say, a brief encounter of the third kind with this. We have a brief encounter with this with the Om Mani Padme Hum teachings. You get all the teachings about the Deva realm. You can listen for hours about them and what goes on, their suffering, their joys, how they get born there, the karma that makes it, how long it, all of this. And all of that teaching for us gets summed up in the syllable Om, of Om Mani Padme Hum. So that when we are saying Om Mani Padme Hum, Om, we have all of that information about the Devas and Chinrazik's compassion, Buddha's compassion towards all of it, condensed into that one sound. And these spiritual dohas are very much like that. So I wanted to mention that. And there was something else. Yeah, it's in general about the power of sound. Now, let's how can you say, switch off of the Buddhist teaching. Let's just relax and become people of this modern world. But nevertheless, my sort of generation, because younger generations might not know it. But when I was younger, let's say, you have the Beatles. Many younger people will say, who? They won't know who they were, but they were a pop group. And they had the song, All You Need Is Love, right? Now, how many hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people have got that etched in their brain? They're going around, all you need is love. The message got through, also partly thanks to the music, All you need is love. Yeah. Love is all you need. So it kind of imprints. Or go back to the Rolling Stones. A more somber message. You can't always get what you want. You can't always get what you want. But if you try sometimes, you get what you need. So that's a kind of it's a deep spiritual message without people knowing it. It's there, it's etched into their sort of vague cloud-like morality that we pick up as we go through life. So anyway, I wanted to say those few general things. Now, today we're going to be looking at one of my favorite Dohas, because I think it contains so much. It contains everything in 5 simple verses. And it's from Maitripa. So who was Maitripa? Not Maitreya, Maitripa. He lived 1,000 years ago. 1,000 years ago today, he would have been a teenager, or a young man, not quite teenager, learning Sanskrit grammar, and he was born in a Brahmin family. So he was learning the Brahmin philosophy. And he studied it for many years. He was good at it. And then he went to the famous center of wisdom and learning, Nalanda. Nalanda was famous all over Asia. People came from China, from Russia, from all over, from Greece, because it was a center of learning in many ways, not just Buddhist learning. And when he got there as a young Brahmin, brilliant scholar, he debated with Naropa. And to put it briefly, Naropa won. Naropa was more brilliant of mind, more brilliant of spirituality than Maitripa was. And so he became a Buddhist. He had quite a lot of Buddhist teachers, but his 2 famous ones are from our Kagyu lineage. One was Naropa, I just mentioned, and the other was Shavarippa. So if you are, when we do our Kagyu refuge prayer, and then right up there in both what is called the short Kagyu lineage and the longer Kagyu lineage, we have Naropa. He's in both of them. The short lineage, Tilopa, Naropa, Mapa, Milarepa, Khenpoken, first Karmapa. That's the short Kagyu transmission. When we get the longer Kagyu transmission, then we go back through Mapa's other gurus, through Maitripa and Shavarippa, and then back through up to Saraha and Saraha's own gurus. So Shavaripa is in the long lineage, and Naropa is in the long and the short Kagyu lineage. So they were the main ones that Maitripa received Mahamudra teachings from. And his main disciples, amongst his main disciples, were Mapa, the translator, of course. So from him, Mapa gained what we call the Mahamudra teachings and brought them to Tibet. And then another of his very famous disciples was Atisha, who gave us the 7-point mind training, and whose disciples a few hundred years later made the Gelugpa tradition. So he's a master figure. You can find more about him online, about his life story. From the very outset, he received traditional Mahayana teachings very thoroughly, but also Vajrayana teachings. And this got him into a bit of trouble in the monastery, because, well, monasteries are monasteries, full of monks and disciplines. And so there are a few stories. We don't need to get into them now. But anyway, it's one of his teachings. And so it's called five stanzas. So we've got 5 verses. These are 5 couplets. If you make long lines, they're couplets. If you cut the long lines in 2, then you get 4-line verses. So 5 of those. About the love between pranja, wisdom, and skillful means. So it's presented as love as a how can you express it? A couple in love. We're talking about a couple being together, and actually described here as the bride and the bridegroom. So that kind of, how can you say, love when it's all fresh before anything goes wrong. The beautiful purity of love, of one being for another, and reciprocated, and how they are together. But that is an example. So he's not talking about lovers. This isn't a song about lovers, right? That's an example. Why do we need an example? We've often seen this before. You only need an example when something is not easy to understand. Otherwise, if it's easy to understand, you just describe it. You don't need an example. You need an example when it's something that's unfamiliar. So you can say, oh, well, it's a bit like this, or it's a bit like that. And that helps people understand. So the lovers, the couple, the bride and the groom, are an example of the rapport, of the relationship, when it's an enlightened relationship between wisdom and skillful means. Okay, so I'll just say a little bit more, because then we need to get into the Doha, but I can explain this Doha, we can approach this Doha on 4 levels, right? And 4 levels in a way which correspond very much to the 4 levels of empowerment. So we can approach it in an outer way, an outer way, based on the words and the ideas. We can approach it in an inner way, which we won't do today, or we will just touch on it, because that's related to teachings that are secret and that I can't teach anyway. So there's that. So we'll come to that, an inner way, which corresponds to the second level of empowerment, called secret empowerment. There's a third level, which is called wisdom. Wisdom in both words in Sanskrit, prajna and jhana. We can approach it on a wisdom level, on the relation between subject and object in our awareness. And there's a fourth level, which is the best, and that's the end when you get there. And that's all those three simultaneously. Outer, secret, and wisdom, those three. And so that's what we'll do today. We'll look at it in those ways. So now what I've done, last week, our last session, you remember the Karmapa song. I wanted you to have the transmission of the Tibetan. So I sang it, chanted it in Tibetan with some accompaniment. But then I read the meaning over the top in English. Today it will be a little bit different. I want you to get the Tibetan transmission. But my Tibetan my Tibetan pronunciation, that's the word. My Tibetan pronunciation isn't terrific. I'm a bit ashamed of it. Okay, so this won't go public afterwards, right? It's for you. So you've got Ken's poor Tibetan transmission of the Tibetan. I remember once, when was it? 2019, very eminent Tibetan master from Tibet. He heard I had a transmission that he didn't have. And he said, could I give it to him? I said, you must be joking. And he was deathly serious. He said, no, I want it. I don't know anybody else who's got it. Something I got from the previous Kalu Rinpoche. And so he wanted the oral transmission of the Tibetan text. So we had the Tibetan text. God, I was so embarrassed. And then once we started, he was kind of looking at me because of the way I was pronouncing the Tibetan. And I think he was wondering, does this count then? If it's such poor. But he was pleased for it because afterwards he'd received the instructions and he had the text, but he didn't have the oral transmission. So he wanted to go back to Tibet and give this to, he was a teacher of Tulkus and Rinpoches and Khenpos. So I'm really, truly, honestly embarrassed about that. And I've always been embarrassed about my voice, and especially my singing voice. And that goes back a long way. It goes back to when I was, 19? I got booed off stage somewhere. I don't know if you've ever been booed off stage by a violent, angry crowd. See, the main act hadn't turned up. They were probably drunk or stoned somewhere. And so this was a whole community center full of people who'd already had a lot of beer, and the main act hadn't turned up, and the people who were there were all trying to do something. And I was there mainly as a guitarist. And I don't know what got into my head, but I decided I'd sing a folk song. And I got really booed off stage, and I thought, after this, I'm never going to sing anywhere, anything again in my life. It's traumatic. So I'm a bit embarrassed about my voice. So this is for you, what they say, your ears only. and it won't go up on YouTube as its own item afterwards. So now I need to share screen. Okay. No, just a second. Okay, give me a moment to deal with the technicalities. Okay, this one. Al dodges and bala, chatsan lolo. Okay. Oops. Okay, somebody can give me a little wave if you're seeing a blue screen now? Homage to Vajrasattva? Yep, good. Okay, here we go. Ten, dodges and bala, chats. Okay, here we go. Al dodges and bala, chatsan lolo. Ratu nawe chok tsewa ten chendra para wasam galte me jore chenjore ni tongni yape tongni yape de chema. Tongni shinto chok tsewe rangiluni pemepa kalte jana tate jur tsewetso tate jur. Chirtope choshui lama tombe chemane nyometse de donde lenchik je para tsewaranza. Emaho lama tampake omotsa dindre tapkepa nyomayer me mekpame lana me para nikaje.
Senyi tamche yanda zog tashedani namparapang nopokunji ranshinyi ranshime para ranshime para tatu oshara.
Did that come through? Yeah. Good. Okay, so let's look at the meaning then. So first there's an outer meaning. What do we mean by that? It's about wisdom and skillful means and the love. So what is skillful means? Those of you, who, how can you say, our Saturday regulars, the skillful means the first 5 of the 6 paramitas. Generosity, right conduct, forbearance, diligence, and meditation. In general, taken together, we can say they are compassion in action. And compassion in action is what skillful means, skillful methods. It's what skillful means. So that's skillful method. And then prajna is wisdom. There are many, many levels of wisdom. But wisdom isn't something in its own right. Although when we think in an abstract way, we can think of wisdom. Like if I say just this moment, now stop everything, let's sit and be wise. What are you going to do? You can be wise about something. And in many ways, wisdom's not just ideas. It's somebody who's a sculptor or a potter. You're wise about what's happening under your fingers, how it works. There's a wisdom. But it's a wisdom about what's happening under your fingers. You take the fingers away, you stop the wheel. Where's the wisdom? It's not there. So wisdom is something very different. The 6th paramita is not just another paramita. It is only wise generosity, the wisdom about being generous, the wisdom about conducting yourself in a clean, moral way, the wisdom about how to be forbearing. It's wisdom about those first 5. So here we're looking at that, and we're looking at that, how can you say it? Assuming we're well along the bodhisattva path. So your whole life, every day, is a bodhisattva's life, and you're living your action, your compassion in action is you're leading a generous, a moral, a forbearing, diligent, and meditative life. That's all you do. It's all you're interested in doing. You don't want anything else. That's why you're alive. That's what life is about. So we're assuming that. And these are the songs of Mahasiddhas, not beginners' songs. These are the songs about how it could be, how it should be, how wonderful it is when it is like that. This is the gift of the Mahasiddhas like Maitripa to us. So we're looking at beautiful, ideal circumstances. Or, put it another way, you're looking at your own future. I think we're a bit too used to being naughty and polluted and corrupt. And we, maybe not, maybe it's just me, but we get used to ourselves as we are. It's not easy for people to think of themselves wonderful in the future, to think of themselves as pure, saintly, and all the things, but this is what we're looking at. So on that level, now we go through the 5 stanzas. The first one is about it's about the love between them, right? It's about the two of them, who they are and how they interact, the couple. Were the adorable bridegroom of appearance, not simply dependent origination. So here when we talk about appearance, we're not just talking about visuals, visual appearance. We're talking about whatever manifests in this moment for you as a bodhisattva. Like just now, you're in a Ken Holmes talk, right? Visuals, sound, Ken Holmes talk, ideas, information, Kagyu, blah, 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 all of that. This is appearance, it's called. A very important term, whatever manifests, whatever appears to be real in this moment. So here, it's the adorable bridegroom. Oh, I mean, it's not just appearance. This is the one that's adored by shunyata, the wisdom, voidness. It says prajna, and voidness. It's the same. It's the wisdom of voidness. So for prajna, this is wow, that's her bloke, right? That's somebody, she is impassioned. It says the impassioned bride. She's passionately feeling. Right? You get into the feel of it, right? There's an impassioned feeling. This is not cold technical talk. There's something quite passionate going on. So for the impassioned bride, the appearance in this moment of your bodhisattva life, the appearance, it says, were that appearance of the bodhisattva life not simply interdependent manifestation. If it weren't that, that's what it is. Everything that we experience is interdependent, and karma, cause and effect, interdependence. Why are you with the people you know in the body you have, dealing with the life you've got, and so on? Both in terms of your samsara, your own story, but also your opportunity to turn all of that into fuel for enlightenment. That's what it is. If it weren't that, that's what we're saying, then it said the impassioned bride of shunyata would be no better than dead. That's no good, is it? Not if you've got a romantic relationship with a corpse, that's no good. So any other shunyata, any other wisdom of shunyata, wisdom, shunyata, same thing. It's knowing what's going on. if it were anything other than knowing what's going on in interdependence, in this moment, being aware of it. If it was any other sort of voidness, like doesn't exist kind of voidness, emptiness, like huge space kind of voidness, or any other misinterpretation of voidness, then that's like death. Like Buddhists who say, I don't exist, is a fundamental insult to your precious human existence. If it's meant in the sense that I don't exist at all. We've been there many, many times in our voidness teaching, but here Maitripa's saying, look, if your notion of voidness is non-existence, just absence, then that's wrong. That's like having a corpse for a lover. Can you imagine having a lover who dies in your arms? Got a corpse. That's no fun. That's dramatic. It's actually happened, I think, to 2 kings of France. But anyway, that's another story. Or maybe 1 king and 1 prime minister. Anyway, so wisdom, prajna, the bride, has to be this wonderful knowledge that everything is interdependent, which means nothing exists in its own right. So it's like, let's have a live example. I don't know if this is going to work because it's to do with cameras. Now, you have to give me a sign to see. Can you see incense smoke? Right? It's interdependence, okay? This paper's burning, it's burning, and so it's not going to last for long, okay? And there's smoke. It doesn't even last 1 split second. The smoke is new. It's new particles. It's new shapes. So, does it exist? I mean, if it existed in the philosophical sense, it will be a fixed shape of smoke, like frozen. It's not, is it? It's changing all the time. So, it's not that it doesn't exist, otherwise you'd be seeing nothing at all. But when you say, but what exists, it's gone already. You can't grab it. It's gone. It's not gone somewhere, it's just, that was it, you missed it. And this is it just now. It's alive, it's changing every 100th of a second. And what's going to come up next, we don't know. So when we look at this manifestation of interdependence, cause and effect, then the bride, wisdom, knows everything's like that. Even though in their delusion, people fix things, they fix other people, they fix their reality, they fix their own idea of their body and their health and everything. The reality is not that. Everything is changing every split second. And whatever was before, it's gone. Not gone somewhere, it's gone forever. It will never be that moment ever again. Ever. So the bride, wisdom of voidness, knows that nothing exists in a fixed way. Everything only exists or seems to exist in the moment, and it's gone. If it were any other sort of voidness understanding, like the void man, the void where there is some Buddha space, which is you go to when you meditate, and so on, or the void as nothing at all, nothing exists, it's just denial, nihilism. All of that is death. Our voidness is amazing. It's about the living moment, understanding how beautifully alive it is, and it's gone. And how beautifully alive it is, and it's gone. And how beautifully alive it is, and because it's interdependent and changing, there's nothing there that you can fix, that you can grasp. That's the doesn't exist side, nothing side. So that's to say something about the adorable bridegroom of appearance. Now, appearance here is, of course, we're looking at skillful means and wisdom. So appearance means, skillful means the life of the first 5 paramitas of the bodhisattva. Were that nothing more than interdependent origination, then the bride of voidness will be no better than dead. So these verses, they're like koans, you can take them away and you need to sit with them and sort of, wow, what's this saying? And then look at your own living moment and your own understanding of its voidness and think, how are these two? Then look at the enthusiasm of the verse. This isn't just, yeah, there's appearance, and yeah, it's interdependent, and this is the real meaning of voidness. This is the adorable bridegroom. You just feel the charm oozing, right? This is the adorable bridegroom and the impassioned bride. It's the awakened mind, which is just so awake in the moment, that this is happening again and again and again and again. And of course, through Mahamudra practice and 6-point practice of Tilopa and so on, we're trying to actually achieve this in the living moment, taking away what's blocking up such clear understanding. So really the focus of that first verse was more on the bridegroom, the skillful means, the appearance, and how its interdependence. The second verse, we focus now more on the bride, voidness, shunyata, wisdom. Voidness is the most lovely bride, a ravishing beauty beyond compare. If ever he became separated from her, that handsome bridegroom would be crushed. Very hard to find the right word here. Crushed, it means like totally useless. Like a balloon and the air goes out of it. Like that. No, it's no use as a balloon anymore. So what does this mean? Shunyata, we've seen in the Buddha nature teachings this past year, is about transcendence of triplicity. No subject, me doing something, no ego illusion of a doer, a bodhisattva doer, no ego illusion of a separate receiver, no ego illusion of an interaction. Me practicing generosity, giving you something, this three-sidedness or two-sidedness with interaction. As long as those notions are there, then our bodhisattva action is virtue. It's virtue, and it's good, but it is called, in the scriptures, tainted, polluted, because there's triplicity, because there's duality, because there's ego, basically. So we're looking at that. So what happens if you're generous? You practice right conduct, you practice meditation, but with the notion, me, the meditator, doing this practice, doing this, and then to your own body and mind, and so on. So if there's that, then it makes good karma, and we get the results of the good karma in a future life, and it's all over, but we are not out of the wheel of samsara. We're not out of the prison. We're just going round in it. We're making our samsara as best as it can be, and you will become rich and peaceful and kind person and a wonderful human being, but not liberated. So whenever there is duality, triplicity, there can be virtue. It's, in one way, 100% good, unblemished. You give perfectly. Your mind is full of good thoughts. There's nothing wrong with it, but it is not helping you out of the round of existence. The only thing that can do that is the wisdom of voidness. No doer-object interaction that we cultivate in all sorts of ways. So that's the bridegroom. It says voidness, most beautiful bride, so that when she's there, ravishing beauty beyond compare. Just something so beautiful you can't take your eyes off it. Oh, she's so lovely. Have you? Oh, just can't stop looking. So beautiful, so wonderful. You feel so blessed. So when you're a bodhisattva and you're practicing, and it is spontaneous and without thoughts of me and object, that is so liberating. It's so light. You're like a feather going through life. It's luminous. It's full of blessing. It's full of joy. And as soon as we bring ego into it, and I have done this, I just did that, I'm doing this, I'm going to go into a retreat for, when the I is there, it taints it, corrupts it, it spoils it. So this is what it's saying about the bride. When we realize the dreamlike, cloud-like nature of each moment in which we do the very best through the skillful means, then we have a ravishing partner for our mind. But if we become separate from that, then we've lost the path of the bodhisattva, which is the path to Buddha's liberation from samsara. And we're in the path of making a very good samsara. Does that make some sense? So that's verse 2 with a focus on the bride. Verse 3 takes us with a focus on the guru. So because it's like this, because they can't do without each other, then it says there, therefore, in trepidation, bride and bridegroom approach the guru, and their inborn pleasure is transformed by the guru into innate love. So their inborn pleasure, I mean, they're in love, it's there, it's happening, not artificially, it's just happening. But they want to make it pure. And so rather than just letting it be as it is spontaneously between them, then they are taking themselves to the Guru and asking for instruction. How do we handle this? Right? This is the example. Hello, Guru. I'd like you to meet so-and-so. We're in love. What are we going to do? What can we do with this wonderful energy where our hearts are warm? And remember, this is the example. We're not talking about that. It's not the focus. It's the example. Okay, it's the example of what? To practice skillful method, to be kind, to be generous, to have succeeded in forbearing somebody else's anger and wickedness, and to practice meditation, even though it's hard, even though your knees hurt and your mind is struggling and so on, but you're doing it and you feel happy about it. Then at the same time with the shunyata, you're happy because more and more the dreamlike reality is just how it is. You don't have to tell yourself it's like a dream. It's there in your face like a dream. So the couple are happy with how they are, but there's a knowledge that this needs to be raised to a higher level. The skillful method, practice of the paramitas, the understanding of voidness, they need to learn how to work together even better. And so it says their inborn pleasure is transformed, is transmuted, is raised up into innate love. This means Buddha love, Buddha mind. So the Guru's instruction shows us how prajna and skillful means can become Buddha mind. You need to practice and get the Guru's instructions, for years, for this to make more sense. We're looking at a masterclass here, a great Siddha telling us how it is, but telling us how the natural beauty of Shunyata teachings, the natural beauty of actually practicing in the world as a bodhisattva, becoming a kinder, better person, how all of that needs to be guided by the Guru. Verse 4 starts with Emaho. Emaho is an exclamation of wonder. I mean, how wonderful, how incredible. Emaho. By skillful means, now we're looking at a different meaning of skillful means. It says by skillful means, like those wonderful means of the sacred Guru, who gives us the key instructions about how to meditate, how to practice, and so on. These two remain indivisible from the primordial state, from Buddha mind. Without focus and unsurpassable. So without focus, here we're mainly looking at meditation. If we go to the technicalities of meditation, you've got meditation with focus, without focus. With focus, you can have sacred focus, non-sacred focus, and then, when we study shamatha, external focus, internal focus, visualized focus, focus on the breath, and so on. And then we also get meditation without focus, where our awareness is not set on something. Here the awareness is liberated into the primordial space, Buddha mind. through the wonderful instructions of the Guru. And so what does this mean? It means as we interact with each other and so on, we never lose the Buddha mind. And even though on the relative level of interaction, we need to be kind, be patient, we need to learn to practice morality, right conduct with each other, all those things, that's going on a relative level. When we get to a liberated state of meditation, all of that's happening on the surface, but we never lose Buddha mind with its peace and its qualities and so on. And so we saw this a lot in the Buddha Nature teachings last year. So without focus, and then because the mind of voidness awareness and this life of skillful means is as it's described here, it's insurpassable. There's nothing higher than Buddha mind. It doesn't get purer or higher. So both aspects of our awareness are never separate from Buddha mind and therefore insurpassable. Verse 5 is the conclusion. So it says, therefore, with all characteristics complete and free of the two extremes of is, isn't, exists, doesn't exist, God, nothingness, and so on. Free from all those extremes, this couple becomes the nature of all that is, everything, everyone that is. This couple are in what is called, it's one of the two aspects of jhana. And there's as it is jhana, Buddha mind, and meniness jhana, manifest in everybody. So they are the essence of everyone and everything. But that essence cannot be pointed to. So it says, but always manifests without a nature. There is not a nature. So you find quite a lot of Buddhists, they're looking for the nature of mind. Where will you find it? Here. In your nose, outside you, inside you, the nature of mind. And then teachers say, now settle into the nature of mind. Well, where are you going to go? Do you sort of, okay, so, yeah, right, where? What? There is no nature of mind as a something. Every moment, the nature of mind is just what we've been looking at. It's shunyata, it's interdependent. You can't grasp it, there's nothing there, but it's there nevertheless, like the incense smoke. So that nature is the nature of everyone and everything, but it's not a nature, something solid. So that's the external explanation of this verse, right? Level 1. Level 2 does happen for some yogis and yoginis, where actually physically they practice sexual union, and they, sexual union's energies. When people make love, there are energies at play, powerful, blissful energies of all sorts. So there are instructions about how to master those, how to use them, and how to use them to purify karma, how to use them to attain enlightenment very, very quickly. So those are very secret teachings. They usually come after having received and mastered other secret teachings like the inner heat, dream yoga, and so on. So for some, that is actually a reality. And then we can apply all these 5 verses to that. One could apply all these 5 verses to that, because they're secret teachings, then we're not going to. Beside which, I don't have the skill to, or the experience, or the permission to talk about that particular aspect. But that would be what is called the inner or the secret explanation of this verse. And then the wisdom explanation is not so much about skillful method of the bodhisattva path in this moment and the knowledge of its shunyata. That's what we looked at in the outer way. Here we're looking at this moment. Whatever's happening in this moment, right now, is kind of like what's on screen. And then let's just use words because there's no way to really describe this, but on a more inner level, there's an awareness of what's your mind is in this very moment. Isn't there? Your mind, this very moment. There's a kind of an awareness of it on the inside. So this is our loving couple. In the song it showed the two faces with each other. Each moment there is, and well, it depends which side you're on, actually. It's kind of like swapping positions in that statue that we saw. If you are the consort, there's the wisdom awareness of this moment, whatever it is there is. And if we turn around, there is the consort, there is the in this case, the male. But the inner one is the Mahamudra wisdom of this living moment. How it is perfectly interdependence, but there's nothing there at the same time. And through Mahamudra training, meditation, how there is bliss, clarity, non-thought. Bliss, clarity, non-thought. And how to handle those. That's when the verse about going to the guru for instruction. How to handle the bliss, the clarity, the non-thought that come up when there is transcendence of duality. And how to lead all of that into enlightenment. So there's not much more to say about this third level. I mean, it's not a saying thing. It's a thing where we need to practice. But it's to let you know that we are not looking more general at the first five paramitas. First five paramitas, that's kind of Buddhist stuff. And the shunyata of all of them, and the bodhisattva path. There we're in a story of the path, a story of cosmic eons. We're talking about those paramitas and awareness. Here we're looking at this moment. What's happening? And this awareness of what's happening. And we applied it's the same explanation basically. Verse 1, we focus on the bridegroom of what's happening is interdependent origination. But you don't even need the words interdependent origination, karma, cause and effect. It's bloody obvious. It's right there. It couldn't be anything else. That's what it is. But there's nothing there. But then whatever's there is like that. So it is as it is. This is about the living moment. The fourth level is when all of those three, outer, inner, and then this wisdom explanation. So the inner one is the one that gives rise to the bliss and the clarity and the non-thought. It's the energy purification. Can happen with a living consort. That's very, very rare, but will happen to all of us in our Mahamudra training. Will happen to all of us, that the inner energies that give rise to bliss and passion and so on will be mastered and channeled under the Guru's instruction to enlightenment. So I think in a way that's all I've got to say about this. What I suggest we do is we'll go through the video one more time. Now you've had the explanation, to see if the words make more sense to you than they made the first time through. And then we can stop and have our discussion moment.
Al doje sembala, chatsan lolo. Drop to nowhere, chok tsewa, ten chindra, vara, chohu wasam. Galte me jore, chen jore ni, tong ni yape de chen ma. Tongni shinto chok tsewe rangiluni pemepa kalte jana tate jur tsewe tso tate jura. Te chirtope choshui lama thambe chemane nyometse de tomde lenchik je para tse waranza. Emaho latam pake omotsadindre tapkepa nyomayerme megvame laname para Laname para nikaje. Senye tamche yandan zog tashe dani namparapang nopo kunje ranshinye ranshinme para tatu shara.
May whatever virtue was created by our session contribute to the state of omniscience being attained. By the main enemy, our mind's defilements, being completely defeated. Through that, may each and every sentient being become freed from the ocean of existence, troubled by its waves of rebirth, aging, sickness, and death. May this precious bodhicitta arise in those in whom it's not arisen. May its development know no setbacks, and may it increase ever more and more. Through our virtue, may we quickly achieve Mahamudra and establish every single sentient being in that same accomplishment. Okay, well, it's your turn, and time for your comments or your feedback. And
Ken, it's Isabel. Please may we ask for a copy of that. It was very beautiful.
Okay, but this, as long as it doesn't go public. So
no.
What I'll do is, for those who've registered for the course, I'll send a link. I'll put it on YouTube with a private link. So
okay, thank you.
Ken, can I ask about the third verse, please?
Yeah.
In the context of the whole thing, I see that at the end of the fourth and all of the fifth stanza seems to be the sort of fruition side of things.
Yeah.
The first and second stanzas, if we're talking about the emptiness and dependent origination being united, if that's already seen, what is the guru doing in the third verse? Or is it that that's the way things are, and in the third verse, the role of the guru is to introduce and make that real for us? Or have I completely misunderstood the whole thing?
No. The role of the guru, if that hasn't been understood, if that hasn't been made real in our own practice, the relationship between these components of our own mind, our awareness and what manifests through our karma, then their job is to make that manifest, but then the whole nature of the bodhisattva path, for most, is evolutive, because in terms of the skillful means, we're talking about what comes up through your karma. And that can be very interesting. So how to deal with that without losing Buddha mind. If you've glimpsed it, you'll have glimpsed it. The whole point is getting back to it more and more frequently, which is what the Guru shows us how to do, and especially in challenging times, like times when your mind is very dull. You, like me, I'm getting old. I feel my mind, it's dying. I've got the neurons and whatever's in the brain. You just lose it, and you can't. It's irreversible. So how do you deal with that? It will be a gradual path. Many new things will come. It's unimaginable going through the 10 bodhisattva levels. There will be those very rare ones who, because of their past karma, will awaken to this or be awakened to it by the Guru, and then it will be fairly easy going after that. But the Guru is still needed, because what we call Mara's power to make obstacles for meditators is enormous and unexpected. And so all on our own, we probably wouldn't manage that. We'd get tricked by Mara, and we'd go off on detours, we'd waste time, or even we'd turn into evil characters.
So am I right in thinking then, from what you've said, is essentially turning those sort of initial glimpses into stable, complete realization?
Yeah, you glimpse more and more frequently. Glimpses become longer, and gradually those then like glues itself together until there comes what's in the outer explanation, the first bodhisattva level, when your default nature flips to Buddha mind. Then you never lose it. So then you are Buddha mind, and your karma's happening, if we put it in words, on the surface. But that's a long journey to get to that point of your default nature flipping to Buddha mind. And the Guru's presence within that is very, very, very vital, very helpful.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'd like some, how can you say, real feedback. I mean, not just to say it's wonderful and you really enjoyed it, but setting off on a deep topic like this and explaining it as best I can, like I just did, or like last week. It would be really helpful for me to know how it is for you. I mean, if you'd rather be doing something else, I suppose is what I'm asking. Like the usual things we do.
Ken, could I just ask you, I have a question about showing my ignorance here. Is this the coming together, the skillful means and wisdom, is this the term I've heard, yabyum?
Yeah.
This is what that is, yeah?
Yeah, it's Tibetan for mummy daddy. So right. Pa-ma, pa and ma, or male and female. But I mean, it's symbolic. It's like I said at the beginning. It's an example. So you get it in the statues, you get it in the tonkas, you get it in practices. And yeah, people like to talk sometimes online about, the female principle or the male principle. But I don't think anyone really knows what it's talking about till they do serious work with inner energies, because all this female principle, male principle talk is very much based on our samsaric experience of male, female interaction, or lovers interaction, if it's male, female. It's kind of, it's working from the bottom up. Maybe I shouldn't say that. It's not the best term, but when here we're dealing with life as it is, the universe, reality as it's always been, which is, we use very rough language. It's a oneness, but in these two terms, it's why you get, yin yangs and symbols like that. We're looking at the true nature of everything. So when we talk about female principle and male principle, it's about experiencing it from the top down. It's about being very open and feeling just what skillful method and shunyata means from a greater side rather than a lesser side.
Thanks, Ken. Can I just say as well, just quickly, when you say about feedback, from my point of view, I really feel as if this has come at a wonderful time after the last, the last course that we did, being a long course, and then coming into this. It's wonderful because it's like, it's the nub, isn't it? But it's such a wonderful way of doing it. And it's like life, everything feeds into practice, and it's the way you look at things. And the same with this. It just opens you up. So thanks, Ken, because honestly, all of these different things, I feel it's a way of chipping away at my sort of, what could I call it? Well, samsari, stupidity. It chips away, and I just begin to see such wonderful things, and such possibilities. So thank you.
Keep sculpting. Yeah. No, I mean, none of this makes any sense if you've not got, basic bodhisattva teachings or Buddha nature teachings, or you know what the 6 paramitas are, more or less, and so on. So the more you know of those things, then the more sense there is to this, and especially the more people actually have meditation experience under their belt, then the more it makes sense. It's beautiful. Like when I've studied as much as many a Buddhist, has been my whole life. When you read this, it's like hearing Jacqueline Dupre play the cello, or somebody who's really good. This is like, wow, it doesn't get any better than that.
Hi, Ken. It's Dorcas. Sorry, I have my camera off.
Yeah.
I'm on my phone.
Yeah.
I thought, I think it's a really, I'm not anyway qualified to comment too much about it, but I think it's a really great way to just drive home those messages about the two extremes, and just reminding us about maybe just having another way, a different angle to look at things as well. I think it's really helpful, and to really and listening to the song and coming back to it at the end as well was really helpful. Just to come back as in the beginning, I didn't really have much of an idea, so it was a bit definitely more clear at the end coming back to it. And and I think your voice is wonderful as well.
Sorry.
I think your voice is wonderful as well. It's all, yeah. Thank you.
If you saw the engineering I had to do on the audio recording of that. And if you heard how it started, you'd be absolutely amazed, because like many people, almost each syllable starts at the right volume and diminishes to almost nothing so quickly. So I'm there on an audio editor, ramping up each word. And so what you heard, I could never sing. What you heard is after an amazing amount of editing.
Yeah, I think it's the feeling in your voice though as well. Like it's the kind of authenticity, I think, in your voice. So that's what I
Thank
think
you.
is really wonderful.
Thank you. That I confess to that
Mm.
very happily. Okay, so maybe let's leave it there. And next week we've got another session. I think probably next week is Maitripa. And so until then, we've done the dedication. So have a really good week. Be well.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you all very, very much.
Bye.
Thanks, Ken. Have a great week.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you.
very much. Thank you, everyone. Bye.